Good morning. Good morning. We're continuing our series today on Portraits of the Past, the stories in the chronological order of Jesus in the genealogies of Matthew 1. So I'm so excited today to tell this story. This story is usually called Joshua and the Spies, but I see it more as a story about Rahab. And today's title is A Promise Agreed Upon. All right, that's the title. So now Moses led the Israelites through the wilderness for 40 years. We talked about Moses last time, and I'm going to give you some background information so we can transition from Exodus to the book of Joshua, because now we're in the book of Joshua. It's the sixth book of the Bible. That's where this exciting story is. I'm not telling all of the stories of the Bible. I'm just giving you bits and pieces so that you can see the line of Jesus, the chronology and the genealogy of Jesus. And this is our series, Portraits of the Past. So going on, it says, what should have been an 11-day trip took 40 years. So they were, destined to go right into the land, but here there was some problems and some issues, and that's okay. That sometimes life is like that. And the Israelites were taken right out of Egypt. They were taken right out of Egypt, but God had to take Egypt out of them. They had been in Egypt. They had been worshiping false gods. They had been doing all kinds of things that God didn't want them to do. And so when they were taken out, they could not go right through the direct route. They would have had to fight all kinds of warfare, all kinds of stuff. So God gave them this break. And so they went into the wilderness and they wandered around for 40 years. So I just wrote a few things down. They were no longer slaves, and God had to teach them how to act as such. So when the generation who left Egypt died, Joshua, son of Nun, is given Moses' leadership position. Joshua must lead the Israelites into the promised land of Canaan. So now they're going back to the land that belonged to them, the land that God promised them. But there is a problem. The land is filled with other people. They're all filled with Amorites and Ammonites and Hittites and Hivites, and all these kinds of ites. But in Deuteronomy 34:9, Joshua is going to be their leader, and he is filled with the spirit of wisdom because Moses had laid his hands on him. So the Israelites listened to him and did what the Lord had commanded Moses. So this is the line of leadership. So Moses was the leader. He laid his hands on Joshua, and in the sight of all the people recognized that Joshua was now the leader. So he is destined to go into the promised land and fight and fight and fight for the land, for his people, so they can settle there and have God's goodness. So this is where we meet the next person in the genealogy of Jesus. It's the woman named Rahab. So if you look in, I have a copy of my Matthew 1 here. This is the genealogy of Jesus, the Messiah, the son of David, the son of Abraham. It was Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Judah. Judah was with Tamar. And then we go several people down the line, and it says Salmon, the father of Boaz, whose mother was Rahab. So Rahab is right in there in the genealogy of Jesus. You're going to be surprised about this. She lives in the land of Canaan, and even though the land belongs to the Israelites, like I said, it was given to them by God, the land is filled with these other people. And God has commanded the Israelites to take back the land. They need to conquer all of the ites in the land. God commands for them to take everyone out of the land. And Joshua is going to be the leader and show them how to do that. They don't have to do it in a hurry or all at once. They are to take the land a little at a time. So now, this is where the story starts. Joshua 2, verse 1, okay, in Joshua's sixth book of the Bible, Joshua 2, verse 1, Joshua secretly sends 2 spies. This is his plan. This is the plan God gave him. Okay, he is to send 2 spies into the land and spy on the city of Jericho. Now, I'm not giving you background information on that. That's a battle that you can read about in the Bible. We're focusing today on Rahab, who is in the line of Jesus. Okay, so he told them, go look over the land, especially the city of Jericho. So they went and entered a house of a prostitute named Rahab and stayed there. So Rahab is a prostitute. Now, ladies, don't ask me why they were there. And men, don't tell me why they were there. Verse 2, the king of Jericho was told, look, some of the Israelites have come here tonight to spy out the land. So the king knows that Rahab has the spies in her house. All right. And the king of Jericho sent this message to Rahab. Bring out the men who came to you and entered your house, because they have come to spy out the whole land. So this is his campaign. This is Joshua's campaign. He sent the spies to see what's going on in the city of Jericho. They end up at the house of Rahab the prostitute. In verse 4 it says, but Rahab had taken them and hidden them on her roof. And she said, yes, the men came to me, but I did not know where they had come from. At dusk, when it was time to close the city gate, they left. So she's saying the spies are gone. All right. And she's saying, I don't know which way they went. Go after them quickly and you may catch up with them. So she's protecting the spies. All right. She's protecting them, and you'll find out why. In verse 7, it says, so the men set out in pursuit of the spies. So now she goes back and she tends to the men. All right. The next part, I can't help but think a few things before we go into what she says. Okay. Rahab, she knew about the one true God. She knew the land belonged to the Israelites, and she knew some other things. Okay. I believe God was already working in her life. Okay. Before these spies even showed up, I believe she was in a relationship with God. That I believe that God was pursuing her and was already working with her, had plans to deliver her from her situation, her slavery of prostitution, and to give her a much better life. So God had his hand on Rahab before this conversation even happened. Okay, and that's what I want you to see. In verse 8, before the spies lay down for the night, she went up on the roof and said to them, I know the Lord. All right, now that's the key sentence. The Lord, the Lord. Rahab calls the one true God Lord. I know that the Lord has given you this land, and that a great fear of you, the Israelites, has fallen on us, so that all who live in this country are melting in fear because of you. So everybody knows that they're camped outside the city, and that they're going to be invaded, and they're very afraid. Okay, so we have heard how the Lord, once again, the Lord, okay, dried up the water of the Red Sea for you when you came out of Egypt. And he goes on, and she goes on and on. So you see, she was a prostitute, but God had already had her hand on her. We can't judge. We don't know what happened to her, that she was in that line of work. Okay, so I wrote some other things down. You know, when people come into the church building, this is going to be about church people. When people come into the church building, we want them to be all fixed up, right? We want them to know all about Jesus. We want them to be perfect. We want them to serve right away and do all kinds of things. But Jesus thinks, I want them to come into the church building so they can hear the word of God and I can fix them. Not for them to be already fixed and then come through the door. So you should expect people in your church to be of all stages of healing and deliverance. We can't expect perfection to join the church. That's simply not how it goes. Okay, that was for the church people. Now, you people listening who aren't in church, Jesus doesn't expect you to get your life in order before you come to church. He wants you to come exactly the way you are. It doesn't matter what you've done in your past. It doesn't matter if you've hurt someone. It doesn't matter if you are hurting. Jesus wants you to come to him. He doesn't care if you walk in with leather pants. I did. A sleeve tattoo or hair the color of a rainbow. He doesn't care about those things. Jesus doesn't care about those things. You might get a few stuffy church people excited. So what? That might be funny. That might be, I did that already. I've gotten some stuffy church people excited too. And you know what? It's God's church, not their church. I don't care what name is on the sign. The church belongs to God. Anyway, this is what happens with Rahab. Rahab says, swear to me by the Lord. There's that word again. Swear to me by the Lord that you will show kindness to my family because I have shown kindness to you. Give me a sure sign that you will save us from death. Now this is we're jumping down to verse 17. Now the spies said to her, tie this scarlet cord in the window through which you will let us down and gather all of your family that you have into this house. And Rahab replied, I agree. Let it be as you said. So they make a promise. All right. In my NIV Bible, it actually says oath. This can also mean vow. And God takes vows very seriously. When the Israelites conquer Jericho now, the two spies go into Rahab's house, bring her and her family out because they see the scarlet cord. And then this is what happens, guys. I know you want to know what happens with the conquering of the city. They burn down the whole city and everything in it. But Joshua spares Rahab and her whole family. Everybody who was in that little house with her, with the scarlet cord outside, everyone is saved. So Rahab and her family are the only ones in the entire city that are saved. And Rahab goes on to marry a man named Salmon, like the fish, salmon, all right, and gives birth to Boaz. And next time I come on with another video, I will tell the story about Boaz. And you're not going to want to miss that. That is a beautiful, beautiful love story. I want you to have a wonderful day and a wonderful weekend.